Welcome everybody. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We are very excited to welcome everybody in the green economy ecosystem. We're all part of the ecosystem, and today's event is the third event of Building Back Better Greener. It's part of our Green Economy Coalition work that TIPS are doing, a series of dialogues around green recovery. For us, it's very important that we leave no woman, no child, and no man behind. We want to include as much dialogue around the impact of COVID-19. We've all felt the burden of that impact, and we're all trying to recover. So today's session is very much to introduce you to our green economy ecosystem players, a lot of pioneers in the field that represents industry, government. We also have the EU delegation and some incubators and BDS providers who's offering support to SMEs, that's youth-owned SMEs and also women-owned enterprises. And it's just a vibrant session today, and I'm feeling very hopeful for our country to see all the interaction that's happening to help us recover and make sure we can decarbonize our economy, we can adapt to climate change, we can lower our emissions, and also ensure that we build resilience in terms of the impacts of climate change going forward. So welcome, and I'm going to first introduce our speaker. We're going to have a couple of speakers just sharing with us their programs and what they're doing in terms of the green recovery and how that's also impacted their programs, some solutions and some challenges. And then after the speakers presented, we're going to go into a panel discussion where we're going to just engage, and we'll open the floor for some questions. So anybody feel free, if you have a question, you're welcome to put it in the chat at any point. We will come back to your question. I think just to help us run smoothly, we will leave the Q&A session towards the end. Okay, and then I'm going to introduce our very first speaker, Ulrich Johansen. He is from the EU delegation for South Africa, and he's going to be sharing you a little bit about insights of his work on the green recovery policy side. So Ulrich, over to you.
Thank you very much, Elise, and thank you, Kayla, for inviting the EU to attend the seminar and for us to speak today. I see a lot of very, very interesting people that are going to speak today. Thank you very much to all of you for joining this. I hope that we will have a lot of interesting discussions today. We're certainly looking for some insights into some of the challenges that are for the local green entrepreneurs in the market today. I think also I can see that the number of participants certainly underlines the importance of the seminar today. There's a very, very good turn up, and I can see the number growing for every second almost. So that's very, very good to see. Yes, as Elise mentioned, of course, the EU has been supporting this agenda for quite some time now. I'll give you a very short insight into some of the things that we have supported so far, and also what we plan to do going forward. I think that the EU is definitely at the forefront of international efforts to promote economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable development, to address the crisis that we are currently in, and of course to fight climate change as it is. The main tool that we use is the European Green Deal, which is a structural response and a new growth strategy that we have. It's very ambitious, and it's trying to transform the EU into a modern and resource efficient and competitive economy. So I think you can change to the next slide, maybe, if that's possible. There you could see there we go. Yes, so just a quick overview of what the Green Deal is, being the third seminar here. I'm sure that most of you know already what it is that we're trying to achieve. But in order to achieve this, we are not looking only to Europe, but we are looking globally to try and support the same agenda globally, because as you all know, of course, I mean, these issues are not local. They are global, and we need to do something in a global perspective to solve them. Well, we are trying to be a leader in this, and with our partners in Europe, nations, the civil society, private sector. We are trying to address the environmental challenges and to promote the implementation of ambitious environment, climate, and energy policies across the world. And we're hoping that through our bilateral efforts, we will be able to accompany partners to transition towards a more sustainable pathway in terms of development. Our strategy is to drive both the green and digital transitions towards a job-rich, inclusive growth through approaches that are not distorting the competition, and to think micro and small and medium enterprises first. And we do that because we know that that is the proven way to create most jobs. We are in South Africa together with all our member states. We have a Team Europe, as we call it, initiative, where we bring all our member states' efforts together to try and support a just and green recovery for South Africa. Together we have many activities and a long history of supporting South Africa, and this is basically a small infographic to show that what we are doing and some of the key players that are here and what we are trying to achieve with working together, also in terms of assisting the government of South Africa with policy reform, both through dialogue but also through investments, both public and private, of course, here in country. So what have we done? I mean, we've been supporting initiatives, especially in light of COVID-19. Global economy and individual countries' economies, how they have fared after COVID-19 being affected by this pandemic has been, of course, been very, very difficult. And we've been supporting a number of initiatives to go in and analyze what effect this has had on global economics, and how we can try and address some of these or the global economy going down, of course. So what we through the research and the analysis that we have been supporting, we're hoping to get knowledge of how we can address these issues and how we can support globally and locally the efforts to ensure a just and green recovery. And that also goes for South Africa, of course. We have in South Africa, we have over some time now supported the Presidential Youth Initiative, which is now also looking to support entrepreneurship, at least to some level. How that exactly is going to be done, we are not sure of yet, but it is one of the things that they're looking into. We are also supporting the Department of Small Business Development and the Ecosystem Development Small Enterprise, EDSE, that Nigel will be talking a bit about in a minute, I'm hoping, which is also working directly with small enterprises here, of course, and how they can be supported from an ecosystem approach. Yeah, I mean, they're working on, of course, policies and regulation, agribusiness solutions. I think that the whole competitiveness agenda and access to finance are critical activities under those initiatives that we have been supporting for a long time. We have been giving support to a number of government departments over the years to try and work on these ecosystems also. And then if just to say that going forward, we have also some new activities that are coming in. We have a new regional program where we are trying, together with a number of other EU member states, to invest in young businesses in Africa. And one of the countries that we're starting out in will be in South Africa, where we'll be doing pre-seed financing, early stage financing, and general ecosystems support to try and develop that for young businesses looking to entrepreneurs and startups and innovation. We are also going to have a local program in South Africa where we're going to support youth in getting employment, ensuring or enhancing employability here. We're at the early stages of that at this point in time, but we are hoping to go in and support entrepreneurs, and we're looking today to receive some inputs into how best we can support activities in South Africa for the youth. Of course, also the further work of the entities that we are supporting here. For them, it's critical that we identify the challenges for local entrepreneurs and how best we can support them, whether it's access to finance, access to land, life skills, or other skills development that is needed. But we're definitely here. We're committed to working closely with South Africa, civil society, private sector, government here to unlock the opportunities that are for just and green recovery and for jobs and skills development here. We therefore very much look forward to the exchanges today, and we hope that our discussions will be able to identify some of the support that is needed for the local green entrepreneurs, including the solutions, the tools, and the policy interventions that is needed. Only through that, of course, can we achieve to build back better and greener. So, yeah, I think that was the end of it. Thank you, Elise.
Thank you so much, Ulrike, for opening the discussion for us today. And we really appreciate the European delegation's support in South Africa. Maybe also just introduce myself. I'm very sorry. I've got a bit of an itchy throat today, and I realized that I just jumped into the session without properly introducing myself. So my name is Elise Hutton, and I represent Trade Industrial Policy Strategies, TIPS for short. I'm working in the green team as a sustainable researcher, and one of my projects is leading the Green Economy Coalition work, which we are running a country hub in South Africa for. And so that's me, and I'll put my contact details also in the chat. If anybody wants to reach out at any point, you're welcome to engage with me. But for now, I will also introduce Nigel. Nigel is from the EDSE group. Nigel, I know that you don't have any slides today, so you are welcome to just tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and I'll hand over to you.
Great, thanks very much, Elise, and it's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon. I've had a quick whip through the attendance on today's session, and there's an amazing group of people, lots of old friends as well. Greetings, but very good to see everyone here together. So well done to TIPS for pulling this together. So from my side, I am, just to give a brief introduction, I'm the team leader for something called the EDSE program, Ecosystem Development for Small Enterprise. There we go. And we are funded by the European Union, as Ulrich said. And I think our main focus is really on supporting the South African government to strengthen the SMME ecosystem, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that implies. We are a R1 billion program focused largely on 3 core pillars. One around enhancing the competitiveness of SMMEs, secondly around aspects of access to finance, and thirdly around improving and better policies and regulation. And we work with, obviously we are based in the Department of Small Business Development. We work with CEDA and CIFA, and we also work with the Department of Agriculture, or as they are known, DALARD, but I'm not going to spell that out. So perhaps to move to where we are in terms of the green economy, and to bring it to today's discussion, in a way, being a European Union funded program, it provides a great opportunity to embed a green approach into the Department of Small Business Development. They have not had a particularly coherent approach. And we have just started off a journey to work with the department to, I suppose, entrench them in the sector, to get them going on a path to supporting SMMEs in a more considered way in the green economy, and to look at the various opportunities. So what does this mean? I think if we look at the challenges to SMMEs, green SMMEs in South Africa, I think we are confronted by, I think, a government where there's a considerable amount of fragmentation in approach. You've got DTI with their incentives, you've got DSI, who are focused very much on pre-commercialization. You've got Department of Environmental Affairs, which have got some very good programs which touch on specifically waste and issues of environmental improvement. Then you've got provinces and initiatives perhaps smattered across provinces, which are all very good, but there's not a lot of coherence. I think there's a lack of information that's available to SMMEs. It's very fragmented, it's not coherent. And I think from a government side, probably it would be typified by a poor understanding regarding the pathways to opportunity, specifically understanding key value chains, an approach to how SMMEs might migrate up those value chains. So all in all, it's a little bit fragmented. So I think taking our program's approach around strengthening of ecosystems, what we are trying to do is to work with the department to have a far more coherent approach. So we've started off a series of engagements with key departments. We're looking at developing up a proper pathway to an improved set of strategies for the department, and to really help them to have a much more considered approach to what they're doing. I think certainly what we're looking at in terms of an approach is a recognition of the importance of intermediaries across the ecosystem. And I think many of those intermediaries are with us today. I think cluster bodies, for example, we know quite a few of them, particularly down at local or provincial level, have been very powerful enablers for overcoming fragmentation, providing information, getting more coherence. So certainly we are looking at what the department can do to support intermediary organizations through tools such as clustering. We're also embarking on a provincial clustering roadshow in the next 2 or 3 months, which will be going to each province, and it'll be interesting to see what emerges from that. In terms of a more coordinated government, we've had a big drive around trying to get the department to embed itself in more coherence horizontally across national departments, and then reaching down to provinces. We've really encouraged partnerships with the private sectors, especially. So recognizing, I think government's limitations going forward from a fiscal perspective, they will not have the resources that they have had previously, and partnerships are going to be fundamental to what they are doing. Then I think aspects of tackling red tape, legislative and regulatory impediments is something that the department has typically driven and been very involved in over the past 2 or 3 years. And in fact, we have, with the department, been very involved in the President's announcement at SONA around creating a red tape unit within the presidency. So that's something that I think the department would, it's a role that the department can certainly play to understand and tackle those regulatory impediments that hold back SMMEs within the green economy. So that would be some key roles. Then I think looking at supporting SMMEs across the board, so not specifically in particular value chains, but just their support for SMMEs across the board in becoming and adopting more sustainable practices would be something that they would need to really encourage and put in place. I think looking at the specific support that they provide, traditionally it's been through the work of CEDA, and I'm not sure if any CEDA representatives are going to be speaking, but we do have Serebi. Helmut, I see, is on board and on the program, and I'm sure he will give some on-the-ground feedback. But CEDA obviously support around 120 incubators. Generally, they've got a few more focused incubators around the green economy, looking at essential oils, Egoli Bio, and obviously Serebi specifically, which is focused on the green economy. And there may be opportunities to partner going forward around specific green economy incubators, whatever those might be, and whatever their focus might be going forward. In terms of CEFA, also supported by the EU, we have a fund called the Innovation Fund, of which there will be 33 million rand, I wish it was euro, window for green economy interventions, which will be announced within the next 2 or 3 months. And that will be through a credit guarantee facility, a mechanism. So we, CEFA currently, EDSC, are looking for potential partners, intermediaries, who will run that 33 million rand facility. That will be leverage funding. So we are looking at very much a multiple of that, up to 6 times. The multiple would be a typical impact that we would hope to see through that credit guarantee facility. So roughly a 200 million rand impact that we would hope to see through that green window. So if any of you are interested, please, if there are any financiers out there, we would be interested to speak to you. And then I think just lastly, Elise, from my side, we would be really working with the department to understand. We have started off, and I think in fact we've been using some of your work to really unpack what the green economy, what the various segments of the green economy are, where SMMEs, where there are particular opportunities for new SMMEs to come in, and there will be a more targeted approach coming in. Obviously looking at using the principle of following the money. We'll be looking at the energy sector more deeply, both in terms of major utility scale opportunities and then also embedded generation opportunities, things like solar water heaters. I think have been on the cards for many years, Helmut. It'll be interesting to hear what's happened there. In terms of agriculture, huge opportunities for green agriculture. We're also looking at a farm-to-fork approach with the Department of Agriculture, which could well see many spin-out opportunities for green players and technology providers and solutions providers in the green agriculture space, in buildings and built environment, waste management, obviously. And I think broadly, we would like to do a lot more work, possibly with the EU. I know the DSI, Departments of Science and Innovation, have also done a lot of work and seem to be holding the plans around the circular economy, which I think provide many opportunities there. So Elise, I think with that, we are at the beginning of a journey with the Department of Small Business Development. I think, as I've said, and as per my the name of our program, it is all about strengthening the ecosystem, and I think that's what we are trying to do with our partners in the small business space. and all the good things that I've mentioned around partnerships, leverage, the need for intermediary organizations. I think that's all part of the game. With that, many thanks and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Nigel. What an exciting list of activities that you are embarking on. Thank you for giving us a flavor of what the Department of Small Business is actually hungry for, their new appetite. Greening industries and supporting local green entrepreneurs is fantastic. And I can relate with you when you said regulatory challenges. I think especially in waste licenses and just regulation in general for a lot of green businesses that withholds them from being fully operational. Obviously, COVID also had a bit of an impact on them, but I think it's a wonderful approach. And maybe just two things that I'd like to mention, and Nigel, you can comment on that. But I think for me, the most important two highlights that came out of the last couple of months is the fact that there's a new master plan. So Nigel, also maybe if you want to just post the link, anybody in the room that would like to read the new SME master plan that the department has issued. And then there's also a draft finance policy being formulated, and it's still open for comment, I understand. So those two, for me, from a policy perspective, I think is really good breakthroughs. So yeah, Nigel, thank you very much. I don't know if you want to say anything else on those two.
Nope, I think you've said it all. The National Small Enterprise Master Plan closes on the 10th of June. So if I will post the link, if anyone wants to comment, it would be great. Thanks.
Thanks, Nigel. So I'm just going to change our speakers around a little bit. I want to ask Lauren to come up next so that we have a bit of a male-female balance in the room today. And then rest, I'll give you an opportunity to go after Lauren, if that's okay. So Lauren, I'd love to welcome you. I don't know if you want to share your screen or you will just be talking to us today, but Lauren Dulles is the co-founder and CEO of Future Females. She's a serial lifestyle entrepreneur, a growth hacker, and a social media expert. Lauren supports female-owned entrepreneurs to create their dream businesses online, to live their own terms, and be your own boss. So she is really instrumental in creating impact for, I think, a large group of people that's been previously disadvantaged and left out. And it's so important for us to include women in the green economy and women-owned enterprises. So Lauren, I'll hand over quickly to you. I just want to make one announcement. There's a lot of Elise Huttons in the room, and unfortunately, I shared my Zoom link with a big network. So those of you who's not Elise Hutton, would you mind just renaming yourself, if that's okay? Over to you, Lauren.
Great. Thank you, Elise, and thank you for that introduction. I'm Lauren Dulles, as Elise said. I'm co-founder and CEO of Future Females. So thank you firstly for this opportunity to present some of our work and also for this platform to have a very needed discussion around capacity building and acceleration of support in this space. So to start with, I'll introduce Future Females broadly. We are a movement. We started in Cape Town, and we exist to increase the number of and support the success of female entrepreneurs, so women building micro, small, and medium businesses specifically, with a particular focus on youth, so under 35s. We are now a global organization, but the bulk of our work and focus is on Sub-Saharan Africa and on supporting green economy businesses and SMEs. So we provide resources, we provide the community, education, inspiration, and access to funding to support women to firstly gain sustainable self-employment, and then secondly to create jobs and impact within their local communities. So this is the work that I'm going to be introducing today. So Future Females, we started as a community, and in the past 5 years, we've grown to 55 cities all around the world. We have 160 trained ambassadors, women who are capacitated to deliver our events, our trainings, and our programs to now our over 100,000 female entrepreneur members every single month. You'll see that these chapters are predominantly in Sub-Saharan Africa and in South Africa, which is obviously where I'm based and where we started. And the power of this is that it puts us on the ground with real-time insight and access to these entrepreneurs. And it's these insights that have led to the development of our programs and is really the fundamental principle for how we operate, building businesses and green economy recovery programs from a grassroots level. So we are focused on solving 3 key problems. Firstly, with unemployment at an all-time high in South Africa, as I'm sure you know, women are being forced into necessity entrepreneurship, and it particularly has been disadvantaging Black and coloured women and others from marginalised communities. So we look to support them with the business skills and green economy context to be successful, which is important not only for the future of their businesses, but because if we don't do this work now, then not only will women be left out of the sector as founders, but there's also a real risk that they're going to be left out of future growth opportunities, such as new green jobs, green financing, and also green reskilling programs. The second problem that we look to solve are female green economy entrepreneurs not getting access to funding, partner, and trade opportunities. So this is just an excerpt from a survey we did 2 months ago of our green economy program graduates. And as you can see, they cited lack of access to all of these opportunities as the single biggest blocker of continued growth in their businesses. And then the third problem that we're looking to solve is really creating a pipeline for funders, because as most of you know, there's a huge amount of climate funding approved for Sub-Saharan Africa and South Africa, but it hasn't all been dispersed. And from our research, it is because these women-led green economy businesses are not funding ready, and they're not getting the visibility and matchmaking to the individual funders and funding vehicles that are stage appropriate for them. So we aim to help female-led businesses get funding ready and connect with the right instrument. So how do we do this? Our key and core program is called the Future Females Business School. So this is a 12-week virtual accelerator. It combines technical and digital skills training, green economy training and case studies, and soft skills training with modular content, small group accountability coaching sessions, and also one-on-one mentorship to drive outcomes. So in the past 3 years, we've graduated over 2,300 women, making us one of the largest female-led accelerators in the world. And we focus on 3 key tangible outcomes. One is revenue creation, secondly, job creation, and third, of course, positive social and environmental impact. So recent cohorts have seen a 220% revenue uplift at the end of the program and a 68% increase in full-time employees hired. So we're very proud, obviously, of the results that this program has been driving. We take a collaborative approach, of course, and we've partnered with organizations like the UK South African Tech Hub, GIZ, like Andy, Global Affairs Canada, to really drive this movement forwards. We were also lucky enough to have Elise as one of our expert coaches in recent green tech cohorts. So we started this business school as agnostic, supporting with digital training and skills uplift, but we started really seeing the gap in the green economy space. So we then launched our green tech program. Last year, we went even deeper into the agri space, launching our agri-tech program. And then fourthly, also last year, we launched our trade program. And this is to support green economy entrepreneurs to look outside of South African borders. So of course, this is why we do what we do. The member wins. So just to share a few with you to, I guess, put faces to the programmatic work that I'm sharing. So Nicole Nelson on the left, she's the founder of Made by Coco, and she makes natural cosmetics. And through our program, she secured a contract with Spar. She now distributes her product in 34 Spar stores across the country and is about to start trading internationally into Botswana and Portugal as well. Intizar is the founder of Ifrik Eco Solutions, and what she does is upcycle plastic waste into sustainable bricks. And through the program, she ramped her production to over 1,250 pieces of bricks from pure water sachets. And she's been featured on BBC Africa and in so many other places for her amazingly impactful work. And then Zanele on the right, who is the CEO of Bnk Solar. So her organization, her team has grown so much, and they now implement both residential and commercial solar projects across the country. And she was just 2 months ago recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year in the Women in New Energy Leadership Awards. So these really are the faces of our beneficiaries that we support through our business school program. So we do other work in the green economy space as well. The business school really is our flagship and our most scaled program. But we do a lot of work in awareness, really helping female entrepreneurs to understand why they need to have this green lens as they're building their businesses. So recently, in line with COP26, we actually hosted TechFest. It was a virtual summit. We had over 4,000 attendees. And in that digital space, we showcased green entrepreneur success stories, access to funding and insights from green funders, and also trends forecasting from key ecosystem stakeholders. So definitely be repeating that this year. We're also now running an export trade program with Trade Forward Southern Africa. So we deliver it in 6 countries, but South Africa is our key focus. And through this 8-week program, which is designed for women just at a later stage than our business school, we help them become trade ready and start trading their products internationally. And then a third pilot that I would like to mention is our Future Finance program. So we're partnering with Andy and Global Affairs Canada to help female-led businesses get funding ready. But then, as I mentioned before, we've created a platform that showcases the different funding instruments in the market. And then we provide one-on-one investment coach mentorship, helping those women reach out to and ultimately secure the funding that is most relevant for them to keep scaling their businesses. So just a quick introduction. Our goal really, if I can summarize, is to accelerate the support of female-led micro, small, and medium businesses in the green economy space in South Africa, and really looking at how we drive recovery, create jobs from a grassroots level. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to discussing and collaborating with all of you.
Thank you, Lauren. That's so energizing. I can just feel all the energy in the room, and just congratulations on your results. You've really proven to us today that there is a space for women in the green economy as entrepreneurs to participate, and yeah, amazing results, and all of the best with all your new initiatives that you're rolling out. I really trust that this platform will also create some new partnerships for you that can be fruitful going forward. And feel free, any applications, opportunities that you'd like to share. If there is open calls at the moment, you can just put it in the chat, but we also can share it afterwards when we send the recording of the event. So that's one very important point. There's a few people in the room that's asked me, can you please record? You need to pop out to another meeting. Don't worry, we will record the event for you, and you will receive it via email. Only if you've registered for the event. So you can still register. If you use another link that's a pre-registered link, please just make sure you register on our database. Thank you very much, Lauren. And I'll leave the Q&A later for your questions. And I'm going to welcome. Are you ready for us? I wanted to just ask first if I can introduce you. Rest Kanu is the Director and Head of Operations of the Indalo Inclusive South Africa, a nonprofit organization. And he's been running the Green and Inclusive Enterprise Awards and Support Program, SAGIA. And Rest, there's probably a lot more that you can tell us, but I think maybe just for clarification, if you can start just to say to us, what do you mean if you talk about a social entrepreneur? Because we've also mentioned local green entrepreneurs today. That will help us, that the audience just understand where social entrepreneurship and impact fits within the green economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elise. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm happy to answer that in a moment, if that's okay, because I think that's one of my first few slides. Then I will explain exactly what we do. Thank you so much. But I think that's great. I hope I maintain the same energy as Lauren and everybody else. And thank you, great speakers in the lineup that you've got. I do tend to speak a bit fast, but it's because I'm trying to make sure that we kind of I spare some time for those that speak after me. But yeah, so my name is Rest, and I work at Indalo Inclusive South Africa, and we operate in the nexus of green, social, and social economy. We are a not-for-profit company. We're very fortunate to be based at the Innovation Hub in Pretoria. I think at the core of our work, our mission seeks to basically incubate, support what we call green and inclusive enterprises in the South African landscape. We're very much committed to that. So, you know, a lot of people talk about social entrepreneurship, indeed, Elise, and we talk about inclusive entrepreneurship. So we work with what we call the base of the pyramid, individuals and communities. And we try and encourage our entrepreneurs to ensure that the work that they do has an impact in those communities. So you'll find that a lot of our work tends to lean quite closely towards rural and township economies. Not that we don't work in urban environments, but we actually want to work with that base of the pyramid kind of communities. We encourage our entrepreneurs to really develop programs and innovations that really have that are inclusive in the economic value chains and actually use local communities to become suppliers of goods and services. And in that way, you broaden the scope and you broaden the impact of the work that the enterprises do. So like I said, the nexus where we operate in, it's in that, environmental, social, and economic. So we actually support enterprises and promote that they need to be profitable entities, sustainable entities. I think like Nigel had pointed, I think it was already pointed at that. I think enterprises have been have proven that they are one of the most viable mechanisms for job creation, but they are also one of the most viable platforms or vehicles for economic development. In the space where we work, we also believe that there's a huge opportunity to use entrepreneurship as a viable vehicle towards just transition or green recovery. So we want to work within that space, so it's social and inclusive, or an environmental impact. Our lens footprint is across the country. We work in a number of countries and we run a number of provinces. Not countries. I wish we could work in different countries, but we hope we grow to that level. So in South Africa, we have a footprint across the different length and breadth of South Africa, with the exception possible of the Northern Cape. We still look for opportunities within that space, and we run different programs. And you'll see in this slide. We have two main programs that we anchor our work on. One is funded by the Government of Flanders, and we are so grateful for the relationship that we have with the Government of Flanders, because they've kind of really given us an anchor and gave birth to a number of programming activities that we run as an organization. We've been working in the climate adaptation entrepreneurship space for the past 3 years, and in that we support enterprises at early stage to what we call replication. For some of you will remember, we used to host a program called SEED, and we've now nationalized and instituted it within Indialo Inclusive South Africa. So we're excited about that. But the other one is a program that is actually funded by Nedbank. We've recently got into a partnership with Nedbank Foundation. It's a great program that looks at Green and Inclusive Economy Entrepreneurship Awards program. It's a 3-year program that we're running, and out of that, we support enterprises in the water, agriculture, energy, and circular economy space. We're currently incubating about 20 entrepreneurs, at different levels, and I'll show you how we operate in that. But these two programs have given rise to a number of partnerships, which I'll speak to as examples in a moment. So we work with our UN partners, UNDP, quite closely. We work with UNEP. We've done quite a bit of work with UNEP, even on issues of resilience. We work with the South African National Parks. We do a lot of work in the tourism space in South Africa, and we work with the Department of Forestry, Environment and Fisheries. We're currently supporting the ministerial initiative on the Youth Driving Force for Change, incubating that, which is a program supported by PAGE. So we're excited about the kind of activities that come out of all those processes. So that gives you an array of a picture of what the kind of work that we do and the activities we're involved in across the country. And I'll give examples of some of these in a moment. But before I do that, just to give you an idea of the kind of incubation program that we have, we work with entrepreneurs or enterprises across all different stages of their growth. So we normally put out call depending on availability of funding for enterprises who are willing to enter into the green space with ideas, and we help them shape their ideas to a point where they can begin to go into what we call the Incubator program, where it's a program that is geared at achieving at least proof of concept, and then they also can come into what we call the Indalo Grow program. It's a growth phase type of enterprise program we run that assists them in terms of refining their business model to become green and inclusive. but also beginning to generate some income. And then lastly, we also have a program that is geared at acceleration and getting enterprises to be investor ready. And the enterprises can come at different stages depending on the call that we have. It's not necessarily a graduation program. In fact, with the exception of the Nedbank program that we run, it kind of seems to want to take a part graduation model, and hence it's a 3-year program. So that's an idea. It gives you an idea of the type of entry points that enterprises can interact with us. Just to give you examples as well. So I've mentioned the Government of Flanders as one of our key funders. We so far, since the past 3 years, we've given over 1.4 million rand in terms of grant money, from that program specifically in the climate adaptation space. So we work in Mpumalanga, we work in the Eastern Cape, we work in KZN, the Limpopo province, and with a number of enterprises. A lot of these enterprises that we grow from this program go on to actually receive investment funding. We have partners such as the IDC that work very closely with us to look at the pipeline that comes out of that. We have a program that's currently running this year with the Government of Flanders on this Exige program that's going to invest about 750,000 or more into women-owned enterprises in the climate change space. So that's one program that we run. And speaking about women entrepreneurship, and I think Lauren, lovely to meet you virtually here. We know we've been introduced by the Government of Flanders, but I think the Siaweka program through which we work with the Gender CC and the Climate Innovation Center. I'm glad Billy is here and he's going to share some of the work that the Innovation Center is doing. So we have a partnership with those two entities, and we will roll out a program that seeks to recognize excellence among women-owned climate change adaptation programs across the country. We have a call that just recently closed, and we hope this year to be absorbing about 8 entrepreneurs that we showcase and fund them as part of the program. Talking about also issues of green recovery. So Nedbank, like I said, it's one of our key partners. There's phase or people and individuals who are involved and that we're trying to promote in this particular program, and these are just some of the examples of entrepreneurs that we've been supporting with the Nedbank program. It's quite an exciting program. We work in the water, energy, agriculture, and circular economy sector, and we've got programs that range from tech, aiming at looking at reduction of waste that goes into dumping sites or landfills. We work at green water purification programs. We work at recycling and biopack centers. We look at greenhousing. We look at integrated agricultural systems, and the like. So it's quite exciting work that we see across the country by young and women-owned enterprises in South Africa. And I've said that the Nedbank program also works on a graduation model. So the 15 that you just seen now, some of them would then graduate into the Indalo Grow, wherein we provide them with funding of about 100,000 to get them into a space where they really begin to actually see meaningful revenue beginning to come through their enterprises. And these are carefully selected through a very strong adjudication process that we go through. And there's just a lot of excitement around this kind of spaces. We also quite interestingly funded and supported by the EU through GIZ on a program called SPIPA, the strategic partnership for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. We recently concluded a program on the Just Transition Enterprise Program, enterprise support in 2 provinces of South Africa. So we worked in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. In that, we supported about 10 enterprises. And we worked in kind of the entire coal mining value chain, if you want to look at it in terms of renewable energy, transport, agriculture, water and sanitation, industrial technologies, and the likes. And the results of that was quite exciting. And we currently are in discussions, for example, with GIZ to look at a JTAP upscale or upscale program around that, where we then look at, really looking at integrated systems within these mining communities to really establish hubs where we demonstrate possibilities of a typical just transition enterprise within those communities. And again, profiles of these you can see, maybe you may not clearly see them here, but on our website, these are available. And these range from young people who come from Limpopo in the Bembe region, where there's heavy mining activity, looking at working at the nexus of agriculture and energy within that particular province. We look at integrated farming technologies in the Mpumalanga region, and establishing an academy for learning or ecological training centers within that space. We look at issues of biogas and all of that. So very interesting work again that we find ourselves fortunate to be a part of. Talking about youth inclusivity, we also recently concluded work with the British High Commission around identifying young people across the country in partnership with the Maiden Guardian to really profile the work, that amazing work that young people in South Africa are doing. Again, we're working on a program now that's going to look at taking some of these young people to COP27 to actually interact with some of African young entrepreneurs across the country. So that's a range and scope of the work that we do, just in summary. But one of the things that maybe, Elise, you started talking about in the briefing, it's about this whole idea of green recovery. So yes, COVID-19 has affected us, and how then do we recover from that kind of impact as incubators or business development service providers, or in fact as entrepreneurs? At the beginning of COVID, just to speak a little bit around those kind of issues, all of us were hard hit, and our first concern was our entrepreneurs. We wanted to know, how are these entrepreneurs affected? So we partnered with Catalyst for Growth. Some of you would know Catalyst for Growth, and actually did a quick survey on some of our Flanders funded program and enterprises to understand how are they affected, and what is the scale of the impact that COVID would have or is having on their enterprises, because we wanted to respond to this thing. So we're very grateful for that opportunity to work with Catalyst for Growth around this. And over 72% of our enterprises were really affected and quite heavily. And if you look at how COVID would have affected their revenue, over 45% of them were looking over 20% revenue reduction. And so the numbers were quite heavy and quite high. And if you look also, how are they going to respond to this? Some of them were going to change their business model and business offering completely. So we had enterprises, for example, who felt like, I can't grow this thing, anymore on hydroponics because my stuff or the technology that I'm using is imported from elsewhere. And therefore, I can't actually receive anything from outside. I need to change my business model completely. I can't grow strawberries on aquaponics. Now suddenly I need to just start growing some simple, vegetables. So enterprises began to change that because they needed to find ways of responding. And then some actually wanted to say, we actually want to get funding. But the question is, how do we respond to these things as an organization, in a society, and as a country? From an organizational point of view and working with these enterprises, one of the first things that we did, of course, a lot of people say, go virtually. We're one of the first entities and early entities in South Africa to actually run a virtual training platform. In fact, we invested resources that went directly into establishing an e-learning platform within a short space of time. It's still a learning experience for us, but we had to actually do that. And one of the things that I'm very, is very close to my heart is the fact that, connectivity in South Africa is very difficult. So we had to invest resources in actually setting up satellite and mobile temporary digital centers across the country in safer spaces, and make sure that those environments are COVID friendly and people can connect with us in those spaces. That was a very effective program that we ran. We also gave funding. Government of Flanders allowed us to redirect our budgets to actually fund, at least some operational costs, and just help enterprises kind of cope with the situation quite quickly. And we also looked at our BDS providers and said, how best do we equip our BDS providers within this space so that they understand how to deal with COVID issues and how to mentor, entrepreneurs within a COVID environment. So, you know, we worked with SEED, for example. We were our partners at the time to look at BDS provision, and we ran a certification program. We also work with the ILO to specifically look at just transition issues and certify our BDS providers to be equipped and make sure that they've got the right skills and tools to support entrepreneurs. Maybe as I conclude, just some parting shots at a high level, Elise and everyone. I think the question that we always would then ask ourselves is, you know, what needs to be done in terms of green recovery? What do we think would be appropriate mechanisms and tools that would help us recover as a country? I think there are two, at least, approaches or two strands that we need to look at. One is around issue of SME development, and the other one is on policy shifts. I think there's a clear need for technological leapfrogging and expediting the issues of connectivity in the country and empowering our SMEs to be connected. A versatile BDS provider is quite important, and you know, accreditation, assurance, and the likes. Supporting of intermediate organizations. I mean, Nigeria, you talk about working with intermediate organizations. I think we see ourselves as one of those intermediate organizations that would be able to respond to some of these things. There is a number of policy shifts, issues that we need to work on as well. You know, empowering the local government to actually look at implementing some of these policies themselves at the ground level. So, and the list goes on and on. So I won't bore you with all of that, but I think there's an agency around that's required of us to kind of respond in terms of green recovery. So let me stop there for now, and I thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. It's a wonderful presentation and definitely very energetic still. For me, what is really a key outcome is that you are addressing provincial needs in the different provinces for different entrepreneurs. And I love the whole recovery what do you call it, eco-inclusive entrepreneur, and the Just Transition Fund as well that you've included. I think funding is very, very important, and for more and more increasingly incubators offering financial support, either making the entrepreneurs or either deploying the funds themselves, and monitoring the impact of the fund is a very important part of supporting entrepreneurs, especially the early stage entrepreneurs who need the capital to actually grow their business. So thank you for sharing all those really rich insights and your recommendations also from the findings from the impact of COVID-19. The data is really very informative. Appreciate that, Grace. Then next up, I'm going to ask Nitsiki from Youth Bridge Trust to talk to us a little bit about youth in the green economy. We love the fact that youth are attracted and engaging and wanting to participate in green economy opportunities, and also from an entrepreneurship perspective. So Nitsiki is the acting executive director for Youth Bridge Trust, and the primary focus of Youth Bridge Trust is to build local youth development ecosystems, to empower community-based organizations to deliver quality programs for youth at grassroots levels. And some of the work includes empowering unemployed youth with entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial skills, so also making them more employable, to grow youth and entrepreneurship in sectors such as the green economy, and a focus on water sector is quite big. Nitsiki, so we all know youth love the internet and they love data and they love streaming videos. So I'm very intrigued to hear from you. I know that you've been working with about 300 youth, a bit more maybe, in the water sector, but please take it away and indulge. We are really looking forward to all the insights from what is youth saying. Do they like to be in part of the green economy? What kind of businesses are they starting up, and what is maybe some of their challenges? Thank you, Nitsiki.
Thank you so much, Elise. And I am actually pleased to see that we have a couple of young people in this room who are part of the Youth Bridge Trust program. So maybe they can also share their experiences in the chat.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes. Elise, I'll start by commending the organizers and the funders of this dialogue for getting some of the players in this green economic sector together to unpack the green economy system. it's very important that we prevent fragmentation and working in silos in the green economy system. So I see today's event as an event that marks a major step in creating a more cohesive environment and peer learning. And we do need more of this forum so that we can share the lessons that we're learning as we go along. And we need to also recognize that we are not competitors in the space. Each one of us is doing a specific, is playing a very specific role, and they will be focusing at a specific segment of young people, or they could be focusing at a specific stage in the business life cycle. For our organization, Youth Bridge Trust, if our programs can function as a pipeline for further development in the ecosystem, this will be a win for young people in our country and also for our economy. I am going to give a very brief background to Youth Bridge Trust. The organization is a non-profit organization that was founded in 2017. And as Elise mentioned, our mandate is to promote skills development and entrepreneurship among people. And our focus is on those who are in rural and disadvantaged communities. Last year, we received seed funding from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment to launch what we call the Green Economy Academy. Now, this academy aims to help young people to contribute to putting South Africa on a pathway to a just, inclusive and low carbon economy. Some of the modules that we're offering currently in our academy are, we start with the introduction to sustainable development. We have a module on waste management. We have a module on water, energy, agriculture, as well as green building. We are planning to add more modules for areas such as biodiversity, tourism, and women in the green economy. The other component of our academy is the business incubator. That includes coaching, it includes master classes and podcasts. And also depending on the client that we're working with, we do run competitions, business pitch competition, which is also known as the Dragon's Den. So the incubator, even though it focuses on hard skills, we also focus on soft skills. It's important that entrepreneurs also have the soft skills that are required, such as a good mindset to be an entrepreneur, because for you to be a good and a successful entrepreneur, you need a different mindset than a regular person like myself. We also offer soft skills such as business education and how to start your business right. What we have seen is that these skills, they prepare young people not just for entrepreneurship, but also to be intrapreneurs. In other words, they could be working in organizations and government departments, but their mindset is entrepreneurial in the sense that they have a mindset that is looking at how we can innovate, how we can change things and do things differently so that we can get better results. So YBT has been funded by the Water Research Commission and also by the US Embassy in Pretoria to provide training to over 300 youth on green economy this year. And moving forward, we believe that we can offer this program at a much larger scale if we can partner with corporate CSI, with government departments, with international funders and funders of broad-based Black economic empowerment. Now, what I would like to focus on are three things. The first one is the impact of COVID-19 and other challenges that have been exacerbated by COVID-19. And Rest did mention a few of those challenges. The second thing that I want to focus on is key components of effective incubator models that can respond to challenges such as COVID-19 and what it brought about. And the third one is to share a little bit about the lessons that we have learned as YBT in our Green Economy Academy. So as it has been mentioned before, following the onset of COVID-19, we saw loss of jobs. We saw small and medium-sized businesses going under. And this then meant that the number of people who are unemployed in South Africa increased a great deal. Before COVID-19, we had a problem of unemployment, especially in the youth category of our population. So these young people now are competing with experienced job seekers who had been laid off because of COVID. And they are also competing with entrepreneurs whose businesses had to fold because of COVID-19. However, there are opportunities even in that kind of a situation, because young people can now look at non-traditional sectors and look at opportunities there and position themselves to become role players in these sectors as entrepreneurs and as intrapreneurs. So what YBT is doing is it is preparing young people to make use of these opportunities that are available, learn more about, lead in the green economy space. I just want to share one of the comments that was made by a young person who is in our program right now, just to give you a sense of what they are saying and how they feel about this program that we're offering. The comment says, I came into this program as a graduate with no knowledge of the water sector or waste management industry. But now I can confidently join a conversation about the water or waste management industry because I have gained so much knowledge and skills through this program. I just wish I could go for another month or so for the entrepreneurship side, because I feel inspired to be a successful businessman. So I've spoken about COVID as one of the challenges. As we know, COVID brought about a lockdown, which then affected the on-site delivery of the training programs that we were offering. So then we had to look at new ways of delivering training and development and still reach the target audience that we want to reach. So lockdown had its difficulties, but it also provided an advantage because we now had to migrate to online platforms and we had to adopt e-learning so that more young people can participate and gain skills that when we had your traditional classroom contact face-to-face training, they could not access those because we are limited by space. We couldn't take more people than a venue could accommodate. But now with online platforms, we can take as many people as we possibly can, and we don't have to be concerned about spending on travel and logistics and booking venues and so on. So the online platforms have afforded opportunity to reach more young people. And when we use this technology, then we are able to scale our offering. And we are now in a position where we can put in systems to enable further scaling and a much wider reach. The money that we used to spend on travel and logistics and stuff like that, we are now focusing that money on training and development. Now, what we have learned during this year, when we started with this online delivery, is that even though it is good, it has a lot of advantages to have the online delivery, but it also needs support. So you have young people who are coming into this program. Some of them are not familiar with online delivery. So there is a lot of hand-holding that needs to happen, especially during the initial stages. And many young people do not respond well to low-touch e-learning because they want your human interaction. So we've learned that, and we've learned that we therefore need to factor in dedicated e-learning instructors, or we can have coaching sessions where there will be a human interaction, even if it is via a screen. This obviously increases the cost of e-learning, but it improves learning outcomes significantly. And once again, funders need to make sure that when they fund these projects, they take that into consideration. What we have also learned as YBT is that it is important to match participants with the right type of support, because as you have young people starting their businesses and developing their businesses and so on, as they go along, the support they need differs. Like, for instance, someone who has an idea, who's starting out with their business idea, their needs and the support they would require is different from someone who has already started a business and they are getting revenue. And those kinds of people who have started their business would not find an incubator model, for instance, suitable for them. But the one who's starting, who has an idea and wants to formulate it better, they would, benefit from an incubator and so on. So it is important that when you recruit, you make sure that you understand what the needs are, and also make sure that you then fit the needs of the people, the participants that you're recruiting. So while e-learning and virtual business development support programs have potential to reach large numbers of people, there is also a limitation that was also mentioned earlier by Rest, which is access to networks, Wi-Fi and connectivity and so on. That is a real problem. And what we are doing at YBT is we're exploring options to take e-learning offline by providing young people with inexpensive tablets that already, have learning content loaded on them so that they can use them without having to log on. And also, there are quite a number of community centers, even in rural areas, where there is free Wi-Fi, so young people can go there and sit and participate in virtual learning components at these places, and then maybe go home and complete offline activities at home. So those are some of the options. And I think if we as the sector in general can also look into this further and make sure that we have more of these facilities for young people to go and make use of, Wi-Fi and stuff like that. We've also learned that while group coaching is effective and it is a cost-effective methodology, and that it gives, young people who are part of this program peer-to-peer learning, we find that if you have smaller groups, then the participation is not that great. And you find that then the coach ends up being a lecturer. So it's important that that is managed in a way that young people who are in these groups, they still are given a chance to participate. And this could be maybe one-on-one coaching to make sure that they understand better and they are able to participate, even if it's a one-on-one coaching. And therefore, that also pushes the cost up. But again, it is a worthwhile investment. Finally, Elise, I want to talk about challenges that entrepreneurs in the green economy ecosystem usually face. One of them is lack of awareness and market readiness. What they need to do then is, even before they put their product or service out there for market, they need to start by educating their market about these issues such as waste management, water conservation, and so on, before they even begin to sell their products. So there is a lot of education that needs to happen in our communities around these issues. And then the second one, and I'm sure we all know about this one, which is the cost of being first to market. There are costs that are associated with being the first one to put your product or your service to market. And the third challenge, which is something that Nigel referred to, which is the regulatory environment. It is, we have good laws, but sometimes it is complex, and there is a lot that one needs to do in order for them to start their business or to be involved in some of these things, and then they end up being discouraged. And I was pleased to hear Nigel saying that government is working on easing the red tapes, and I think that would be really appreciated by young people. So these are some of the things that the sector at large needs to address, so as to make the environment conducive for young entrepreneurs in the space to thrive. Finally, Elise, I want to conclude by reading a comment that was made again by one of the young people who are in our program. And I chose this comment because I think it sums up very nicely how these programs that we're offering are being appreciated by these young people and the impact that they are making. So the comment is, as a graduate who was sitting at home applying for internships with no luck for the past 4 years, I am grateful for this program because it has opened my eyes to see green business opportunities that I can start in my local community. I also learned that keeping our environment clean is also a business, and we will be recycling waste material that was supposed to pollute our community. Before joining this program, I already had started my online clothing business. So the information that I got from the master classes has helped me to improve my business. I am busy with a business plan of a green business in my community. This business will also be an education to the community. So I just thought that comment really summed up what we are trying to do with all these initiatives. If people want more information about YBT's Green Economy Academy, I will post a link on the chat right now, and then they can copy the link, and then later on they can go in and see what, there's a form there that you can complete, and then we'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much, Elise.
Thanks, Ntiki. Very inspiring. Thank you for a very comprehensive overview about all the different needs and components that you need to consider in recruiting, and also tailor-making your offering to support the entrepreneur's needs. It seems like your pitch trust is very sensitive to the needs, and therefore getting good results. You will be surprised, Ntiki. You can sit back now with a cup of tea and read some more very good testimonials in the chat, and people, seems that you've got a lot of fans in the room. So next up, I'm going to introduce, yes. Next up, I'm going to introduce Audrey. I just want to make a little announcement. We are running a little bit late for time, so we're going to skip the panel discussion because I feel a lot of the speakers has already touched on green recovery in terms of their challenges, in terms of how the environment has changed. Also, a nice key theme that came out is collaboration within the ecosystem. So I think today we'll just let Audrey, and then we're going to give Billy from the Innovation Hub and then Helmut the opportunity to take their own time and really give us some good insights into the work that they're doing. And then I'll end up with a Q&A session if anybody's got questions. But anybody that have pressing issues that might need to run, please feel free to put it in the chat and we can also get back to you. So over to Audrey. Audrey, I first just want to introduce you. Audrey van Hagen is the chairperson of the SA Innovation Summit. She's quite famous, so I know a lot of you will definitely know her. She's been running the Innovation Summit, correct me if I'm wrong, Audrey, but I think it's for 13 years now. And she's a Pan-African tech startup enthusiast and ecosystem builder. She loves collaboration, so that's why I invited her today. She leads ANZA Holdings, which includes innovation, scalable entrepreneurship, and early stage investment companies. And then the Research Institute for Innovation and Sustainability and ANZA Capital. Audrey is very active and contributing. She is an entrepreneur herself, but I think Audrey's key talent that she brings to the South Africa and the African continent at large is that she can put partnerships together. She's so good in building ecosystems. So Audrey, we feel very, very honored to have you today. And we look forward to hear from you and ANZA Capital.
Thank you, Elise, for the invitation. And hello, people that I know and people that I haven't met yet. I'm really looking forward to get to know you and work with you. I'm talking from our newest organization in our group of companies that are all ecosystem building companies. And Elise mentioned a few that you might recognize. But the latest kid on the block is ANZA Capital, and that's a venture capital firm. ANZA is the word in Venda I heard recently, and Tonga I heard before, that means multiplying great numbers. And that is what we have always tried to do in our ecosystem building at the SA Innovation Summit, in our Tech Tribe Accelerator, in RIS, to connect the startups with corporates. And that is to always work with technology-based enterprises. And so for 15 years, for 15 years, we've been bringing the SA Innovation Summit as a connector of the ecosystem, as an originator for investors, and as a thought leader in the tech entrepreneurial space, early stage space that was underfunded, grossly underfunded, and a total gap in our economy. And I know there's quite a lot of players now to start to talk about how do you define startups versus SMMEs, because they look differently, their financial requirements are completely different, and their scaling capability is the fundamental difference. So from all our work, the Innovation Summit plus RIS's work, and now this venture capital firm invests and supports the scalable tech startups. And in our economy, that was the missing link. For me, it was the biggest underfunded and the most impactful space in the economy that we could have actually made a difference. So ANZA Capital was born after 15 years in the ecosystem. I just want to move. My screen is not moving. So
yeah, the slides are not moving. Oh, there we go. There we go.
There we go. Okay. So the biggest opportunity, and this is not just in South Africa, but it's actually in the continent of Africa, is from a finance perspective. And we often in our legislation, so I'm just going to tackle the problem from the start, we isolate capacity building from finance. And then you get a lot of incubators and accelerators that build fabulous programs. I mean, I did my MBA. It did not help me build my business, but it taught me about business. So you get a lot of players here that teach people about business, but it doesn't build the business. And then you've got other legislation that says, let's start to fund the businesses, but how do we trust the businesses? They use the traditional banking system, or they use financial systems that they are familiar with. That is typically in Africa, very large businesses, very secure investments, And we had this enormous disconnect with the startup and the money available in the system. We call it the missing middle, where so many companies died that shouldn't have died, that could have changed the narrative in South Africa about co-ownership, creativity, and scale and impact. And now there's a greater awareness, and the kind of statisticians that are making a big big impact here is like the Partech report that has made the statement now for 3 years that the opportunity in dollar terms is $42 trillion in the early stage funding landscape. This also impacts the green entrepreneur. If we want a just energy transition, we cannot just be thinking about the rich guys that own big coal mines that now must become big wind farm owners. That's not the game we play. We're not even interested in that. What we want to do is just to give access to tech startups that can actually make a difference. Now, that's not real infrastructure companies. Those are often data companies, IoT companies, artificial intelligence companies, blockchain. I heard the other day of a fantastic green solution that's coupled with blockchain that's growing very fast in one of our neighboring countries. So that's the space that we are very interested in. And of course, in the Partech report, they also talk about 20% of the world's population live in Africa, with 60% under the age of 25. So we've got all of these building blocks that makes this a very, very fabulous place to put money that can grow in impact and return on investment. And that's what I love, is when we can start to talk to financiers and say, you can make such a fantastic difference in the world and you can make money. It's not either or, it's actually do it right, leverage that money and have an impact in the world. And that narrative has always been like divorced in South Africa. And I see it's coming more and more together with lots of work like Andy's work. I think, Lauren, you guys, you are doing, or everybody in this room are doing fabulous work on bringing these conversations around the table. I don't want to unpack too much about the African population, but every analysis, every report says we are at a tipping point. The investor interest in Africa is hot. I'm in a Pan-African investor group of 240 investors, and I hear almost weekly of a fund that's opening in Africa, attending not only to green, but all tech startups needs. Now, if you go and scratch a little bit, then very little money is actually for the tech startup. There's a lot of infrastructure money, and there's a lot of more traditional kind of business money, and there's a lot of instruments, debt instruments, and other type of money that you might unleash by putting your house up or building something. But there's very little money where the real leverage lie, and that is in the tech entrepreneur, because there's no security. It's often an app, or it's a solution that scales and can bring a lot of return on investment, but it's very much misunderstood. So that space is the space that attracts the most money. And every year we report faster. So 2 years ago, we said, this space is growing at 79%. Last year, we said 121% per year. Can you see the exponential growth that we are in at the moment? And suddenly, we're already in May, and I think we already surpassed last year's attraction of money into the continent of Africa in the venture capital space. So this is the space that we, I think, missed in South Africa in our incubators, accelerators, and our funding mechanisms. So the entire ecosystem collapsed in this space. We now have that innovation fund from the Department of Science and Innovation, which is still in its pilot phase. And more businesses are putting money into venture capital. And, we are raising a 750 million rand VC fund, of which a third is going into green, just energy transition tech startups. What we look for is a seed to Series A, because that's the biggest missing part. Of course, before commercial is a lot of a risk for funding, and I think grants play a better role there. And we only have two mechanisms, and that's TR and the SPY funding at the moment. So we need a lot of more money there in the early stage. I think, Rest, you've talked about MVPs and in the work that you do there. But then when you've got it, you need much more money. You need millions often to get to your Series A phase, and a very misunderstood cycle there. So everything is needed in Africa. And in South Africa, we need energy solutions. We need financial solutions. Sometimes we need financial solutions connected to energy solutions, agricultural, smart city, logistics, education, health, and so on. And this space is so interesting. If you actually go and look last year, March, in the entire Africa, we had 2 unicorns. A unicorn is a $1 billion company. And in October, 6 months later, we had 10 unicorns from Africa. So it's heating up, and it's exciting to be in this space. And as an ecosystem player for 15 years, we've built through the Innovation Summit. It is still a yearly event that connects the tech startups with the funders. Mostly the funders came from overseas. Mostly all the deals were international deals and not local deals. We had a little bit of money playing in South Africa itself, but suddenly it started to change. About 2 years ago, we saw much bigger deals happening on the floor at the Innovation Summit, where we do a match and invest cycle. Our online accelerator also launched just before COVID, and then COVID really supported that growth over 8 countries in Africa, and we make tech startups investment ready. Now, listen to the word tech startup. So we don't take companies that can't scale 10 times fast. So it is the venture capital conversation that we're interested in. And in our group, we've got this origination instrument, the Innovation Summit. We've got the mentoring and the capacity building through the Tech Tribe Accelerator. And then we've got an innovation consulting firm called RIS that opens doors in the mining and oil and gas and agricultural sectors and the space sector to grow our investment. The missing part was the investment. So we managed to register as a financial service provider. We raised $2 million, which is about 35 million rand, of which a third is already active in the green space, in the early stage space. And next to it, it's this ambition to start the fund, the $50 million fund, of which a third will go to green. We look at green, digital Africa, and a combination between the two, and the food tech value chain that also has a lot of green in that value chain. So the three really speaks beautifully together. And from a policy perspective, I think this is what I want to say today is we struggled as an ecosystem player. I really thought it's a hard play. It's almost a non-profit play. And you must still pay salaries, you must still raise all the money, and then you must execute. And it's and the ecosystem play was really a 15-year hard contribution to the economy. But the financial play with the ecosystem without the financial play remains kind of an empty play. So I think we must look at it as a whole, and that finance is just one element of capacity building, connecting, networking, growth, portfolio management, and then investing again. And that bridge must be much, much closer. So here is the summit, then the Tech Tribe community. RIS is the opening to the corporates, which the small business guys need for growth. We've got an evaluation instrument, and then you create your successful company that contributes in impact and return on investment. There's our 3 lines: food, energy, green, digital tech. And of course, it's all about making money, but also getting it right through better inclusivity, social impact, and environmental impact. And that's the work we do. We love what we do. I would like to have a conversation with you. And we have just launched. We made our first investment yesterday. And yeah, so it's actually time to drink champagne. And it's going to be a very 15, 25-year journey to bring this whole circle together. And we would love to work with everyone in this room. Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey. And I also want to correct that it's Dr. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your view on the investment space. I think it's so valuable to understand there's a dying need for tech entrepreneurs as well to bring more kind of solutions that is connected with Industry 4 and optimization and intelligence and all of that into the industries to decarbonize and to help us to actually be more smart. So I think a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to play in that space. And yeah, I want to also congratulate you for all your efforts of holding the ecosystem together, pioneering over so many years. It must be really hard work to keep motivated, but I think the time is here. The time is here. We're facing a net zero carbon emission transition. At 2030, we're going to peak our emissions in South Africa. By 2050, we need to go net zero. That doesn't happen overnight. So all the hard work that you're putting into the seeds, you will see these businesses and these markets take off very soon. So we wish you all of the best and thank you for being such a collaborator. And yeah, we wish you all of the best. I'm going to hand over now to Billy. Let me just see, Billy, are you still in the room? I'm sorry that we're going a little bit over time, but Billy and then Helmut and then Hilton. So we've got 3 more people. So I want to ask Billy and Helmut and Hilton, sorry, just to see if we can keep it a little bit shorter because we want to exit the room by 4 o'clock sharp. So Billy is the Senior Manager of the Climate Innovation Center of South Africa and currently the Acting General Manager of the Green Economy Unit at the Innovation Hub. He holds over 15 years industry experience gained from the power cables industry, the automotive industry, as well as the enterprise development sector. And prior to joining the Innovation Hub, Billy worked for the CSIR as an enterprise development portfolio manager, and he was leading the research and helping to commercialize the research. So that is so exciting. Billy, thank you for being here today. And we look forward to hear from you and all the amazing work that you're doing at the Innovation Hub. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elise. And first of all, let me apologize for joining late. And thank you for the opportunity to have us as the Innovation Hub as part of this very important conversation. I'm sure a lot of us know about the Innovation Hub, but maybe just to share a little bit of background in terms of who we are. So we are the innovation catalyst for Gauteng. We were established through the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, through the Department of Economic Development in Gauteng. And we've been around for, a greater part of the last 2 decades. I specifically had the Climate Innovation Center South Africa, which is an incubation program that is responsible for the green economy. In the Innovation Hub, we've got other incubation programs such as your Maxim, which is the incubation program for digital economy, and Biopark, which is the incubation program for the bioeconomy. So as the CICSA, the Climate Innovation Center, we operate within just, 3 broad sectors, which is water and sanitation, waste management, and clean energy. And that is where most of our companies are biased, under those 3 sectors. But we do operate, in the mobility space. We do find ourselves in the green building space. And recently, there's great call from province for us to widen our reach, to look into issues of green hydrogen and all these other topical subsectors within the green economy. And maybe just to spend a bit of time looking at some of the programs that we offer without going into them exhaustively. But we do have an innovation platform that we call OpenIX. It's an open innovation exchange platform that is demand-led innovation, where we have solution seekers come in. It may be government, it may be the private sector, looking for certain solutions within a certain sector. And as part of this platform, that's when we link solution seekers with some solution providers within our portfolio of companies. And currently, I think in the past week, we've now opened the Gauteng Accelerator program, which is also known as GAP. There's GAP ICT, GAP Bio, GAP Medical, GAP Green. You can go into our website and find out more about that, especially if you're an innovator in the spaces of digital economy, bioeconomy, medical devices, and green economy, to take advantage of that competition, which runs over a year. There's quite interesting information that we share and training. And at the end of the competition, the winners then get seed funding, anything between 100 to half a million, 100K to half a million, part of which, is cash prizes. And most of it is then directed towards seed funding. And our incubation program is, segmented into 3, and that all that information we can get in our website. We've got most of our companies, 88% of them are in Gauteng, but we do have companies outside of the province. And about 38% of our company portfolio is in the waste management and solid waste management sector, and about 25% green buildings, 28% of them is about water and sanitation. We did run a survey with our companies early 2021, late 2020, looking at the impacts of COVID-19, specifically in our green incubator. And just maybe to touch on some of the findings of that survey, we found that obviously, operations from most of the companies, such as manufacturing, commercial enterprises, assembling, and installations were adversely, affected. No access to, 3D printing, lab testing, and other technology development activities was also a problem. But most importantly was the access to input material that became, the biggest problem, because even though the companies could operate from their own safe spaces, which is their homes, but then, input materials, both locally produced and imported, were not deemed a necessity, and therefore, affected those operations. And some of the things that, we can look at are some of the government relief funding instruments that were put in place that came across as inconducive because of, some of the conditions for that were too stringent for the type of companies that we have. So, they were rendered, that intervention, was rendered ineffective. But some of the companies in the production of energy and water supplies were fortunate enough to be exempted, especially under the strict level 5 lockdown regulations, because they were deemed as if they fall under basic services category. But the problem with that is that as much as they were allowed to trade, their customers were, however, not allowed to trade, and therefore, that became a problem for them. Heavily impacted again is the waste sector. For instance, our glass recycling companies depend heavily on the alcohol industry, and closing off of that industry meant a lot of low-skilled jobs being lost. Also, most of our waste businesses, found their customers, utilizing the force majeure clause in their contracts, which meant, mass liquidations, large-scale retrenchments, across the entire sector in the waste industry. But our role as an incubator was to ensure that we can look at, how do we pivot? How do we see these, companies overcome some of the difficulties that they were facing? And you saw a lot of these companies, especially those in the waste industry that were involved in the recycling of, fabric materials and all of that, and textiles, pivoting and looking into the production of face masks, We saw, especially, with us and the biopark, the bioeconomy, most of these companies looking at the production of medical devices and sanitizers, but most of the companies started using the downtime to invest in marketing their programs, their products, looking at engaging potential stakeholders for strategic partnerships. We saw some of them, because by nature, these startups are sometimes technical people who, would tend to neglect issues of administration, quality systems, and all of that. And most of them started looking into those and design improvements. But most of them also used the lockdown as a litmus test for plausibility of the digital communication systems. And some of them started using, and some of them still are in a space where they completely relinquished their rental premises, and they are looking at less rigid modes of operation. But yeah, so those are some of the things that we encountered, or we saw, during COVID with most of our companies. But we do realize that there's a greater role that we need to play in order to provide a conducive ecosystem for these innovators. And maybe next time we engage, just not to kill time, we can look into some of these strategies that we need to look into to make sure that we provide this conducive green economy ecosystem for incubators within the green economy, the green incubators. Elise, without taking any more of your time, thank you so much for the opportunity. Please do look out, into our website for most of this information. There's articles that we write from a thought leadership perspective from time to time that share some of these learnings that we come across within this space. Thank you so much, Elise.
Thanks, Billy. I appreciate that. I'm not going to comment too much because I'm cautious. We've got a few minutes left, and I really want to give Helmut a chance. And then Hilton from Growthville also wanted to share a bit about these new SDG Green Toolkit. Very warm and cozy over there. I won't take a long introduction for your entire CV, but maybe just to share, Helmut is the CEO of Sarebi, Renewable Energy Business Incubator, and he's also been an entrepreneur. So he's been in a lot of the entrepreneur's shoes, where he was also setting up a solar manufacturing plant himself. So he understands how tough it is in the green industry to really grow and scale your business. So over to you, Helmut.
Hi, yes. So let me quickly see. I am going to share my screen. You should be able to see that.
Perfect, we've got it, thanks.
Awesome, okay. Given our time constraint, I am going to skip over one or two of the slides, and I'm going to try and get the message through without laboring too much.
No problem. Helmut, we'd still like to give you your 5 to 10 minutes. So if the audience and the attendees don't mind that we're going to run slightly over time, we would like to still give you the full platform. So thank you.
Good. Okay. So a little bit about Sarebi. We've been operating since 2015, really 2012, but our current program structure has been running since 2015. And during that time, we've supported 350 entrepreneurs, enterprises. Some of them aren't necessarily registered businesses, but aspirant entrepreneurs. And our program really has two core streams. In the beginning, we call it START, which is focused very much on a capacity development, training, business savvy workshops, which is in a peer learning workshop format. We specifically try and keep those workshops small so that we get engagement in the workshop and not in a lecture format, and that we encourage people to learn from each other. And the focus there is really about helping people develop value propositions, business models, really put a powerful business case together, and understanding the market intelligence and product market fit issues in the energy sector, because the energy sector is very often misunderstood, and very often people think that building an energy business is easier than it really is. And then our second, and this is really our flagship product, is our GROW programs, We've got a couple different subscription models, but it focuses specifically on trading entrepreneurs that's at recurring revenue stage. And it's very heavily focused around operational support with accounting, information technology, human resources, industrial relations, and marketing support. And it is really about helping them accelerate, scale, grow faster than they would. Very often the intervention would be to provide entrepreneurs with a level of service, a level of intervention that they wouldn't necessarily have been able to afford at the stage. So putting them at a more advanced operational process at an early stage and then helping them grow into that position. In terms of COVID impact, we've seen quite an interesting thing, and it has a lot to do with the type of entrepreneurs that we work with. A very large part of the entrepreneurs on our GROW program are operating in the, I would call it the artisanal sort of service, the post-market service level, where they focused on installing. So a lot of our entrepreneurs are operating in a post-market sort of artisanal space, very heavily focused on installation of product and not building, marketing, or building or manufacturing or doing the R&D. I've got a couple of slides about some of the challenges there. So quite interestingly, during COVID, specifically during the lockdown, a number of the people on our program has taken a bit of a knock in terms of revenue, but because they very often work in essential services such as hot water, electricity, and those kind of services, they were able to still operate. And we've seen relatively shortly, I mean, at this point in time, about 90% of our cohort is back at their pre-COVID revenue levels. And that is largely driven as a result of power outages from Eskom and from the grid. And then our program has also, during that time, gone from a on-site bricks and mortar program to a purely virtual program. A lot of that is based on IT enablement and capacitation of SMMEs through virtual digital software tools. And that is really focused very heavily around the productivity. And we can report that 100% of our entrepreneurs in our program are still trading, and they have not needed to reduce any employment. So I think we were quite lucky in that respect. A little bit about technology and the markets. So we've heard a number of different perspectives from a couple of different incubators. And I think it's quite important to distinguish, and it's something that I find a lot of support organizations don't necessarily appreciate, is that most of your energy technologies are mature technologies. There is very little scope for hardware R&D, especially in South Africa, especially in our tech environment where we're largely underfunded. If you look at the amount of money that Chinese incubators and companies and manufacturing companies spend on the development and improvement of PV modules or solar water heaters or any of those technologies, battery technology, inverter technology, then that is a very, very, hardware R&D is a very difficult space to play in, and it's also an incredibly expensive place to play in. But there is definitely, and that came from Dr. Audrey's conversation or her presentation, there's very interesting opportunity in the virtual services, specifically digital energy tech, wheeling, virtual power stations, and a number of those business opportunities. And those are also much more scalable than your aftermarket artisanal space. I've just listed a couple of the different sort of technologies, the energy technologies. And if you look at energy efficiency and LED lights, it's predominantly, the opportunity is predominantly in industrial assembly and or industrial installation. It is not really viable to look at large scale residential manufacturing of LED lights or LED cobs or anything like that. Your solar water heating space is a very tough space to trade in, especially given the challenges we've had with the DOE program and Eskom programs. So in my view, there is some really interesting industrial opportunities. And the challenge there is that, if you want to play in the industrial space, you really need to have the necessary technical background, technical training. The average sort of solar water heating installer, domestic installer, comes from a non-technical background, and you are going to have difficulty designing a large-scale 100,000-liter hot water system for an industry if you don't have the requisite engineering qualifications and so on. Photovoltaics is it's predominantly installation, embedded generation, not as much the IPP space, because those are from a SMME perspective. That is a very difficult place space to play in. Battery storage, installation, again, your large wind projects, your IPP is really very exclusionary for SMMEs, and similarly your CSP type of technologies. And I think something that we really need to think about in our clean tech incubation space is the dichotomy of high-tech versus SMME incubation. This came through, again, in Dr. Aubrey's presentation, where she made quite a number of comments around this, that we need to look at the structure of the incubation space, because your R&D or entrepreneurial development interventions are two very, very distinct interventions. And R&D in energy is very expensive and currently completely underfunded. We find very often that we get people, potential entrepreneurs, aspirant entrepreneurs, that would apply with us with what would appear to be a really great idea, but getting funding for that very early stage, when it's unproven technology, it's unbankable technology, is incredibly difficult. And then at the same point in time, when you do have your smaller entrepreneurs, the guys that operate more of a lifestyle business or a slightly bigger than lifestyle business, they themselves also have difficulty in accessing viable funding, because their need is not grant funding, it's not risk money, it's working capital, it's project-based working capital that they need. And again, the funding instruments around working capital is not really conducive for smaller entrepreneurs. So you need to look at the cost of that intervention and the type of interventions, whether you're looking at prototype development or whether you're looking at operational support. We really need to consider that and look at how we support both of these sort of streams, these two streams, not just one or either or. We very often have a challenge with entrepreneur expectations. This glamorizing of entrepreneurship, people thinking that the moment you become an entrepreneur, you snap your fingers and you get lots of money. It doesn't work like that. They expect free money and don't really understand that you've got to have some skin in the game. You've got to have either a business that's got tradability, or you've got some equity, or you've got some form of collateral for that money, which often creates a problem. There's a challenge. It's not that there's no money, it's that there's a mismatch between the type of money needed and the type of money available. And that ecosystem support, I think this came out of a number of the presentations, the fact that you need to understand the entire value chain. And you also need to understand the sector specificity. I find that there is very often a notion of incubation as a process on its own, and that all incubation is equal to all sectors. But your construction sector and your energy sector and your agriculture sector have very, very, very different needs in terms of the type of intervention, the type of services that the incubator plays, the type of funding, the capacity, the ability, or the kind of numbers that one has to look at, or how are you going to make a real impact in your specific sector. And if you don't take your sector specificities into account, then you end up building a support system that doesn't really speak to the particular sector needs. I've listed a couple of things here around some of the entrepreneurs' challenges, and that is that we very often find that people think that because it's renewable energy, because it's clean, because it's green, it's going to sell automatically. And it doesn't matter where you come from. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to run a business and you want to develop viable energy solutions for larger scale embedded generation or larger scale solar thermal solutions or battery storage, you really need a cohort of STEM skills. You need some qualified electricians, qualified electrical engineers, qualified mechanical engineers. And for very small SMME startups, those skills are hard to come by unless you are a team of people that band together, and then you very often need to work for a long time before you see that payback. So building, scaling, and I think this is what I want to say, is that scaling an artisanal business, your smaller scale, owner-operated installation business, is not easy because you are very often bound by geography, distances, and so on. And again, we find that aspirant entrepreneurs don't really appreciate the fact that if you're a lifestyle or a small scale post-market installation business, you've got very specific geographic limitations, and growing that business is not that easy. So it's that need for getting that reality check that you will have to start small, and you really need to choose two different streams. You can't choose both streams at the same time. A aspect that we very often find with many entrepreneurs is that they fail to focus on the business case. They fail to understand the bankability of that business. And they expect that because they're a business or suddenly a newfound entrepreneur, everybody needs to just dole out a lot of money, and it just doesn't work that way. There is money out in the market, but the business case has to be a bankable business case. Otherwise, you're not going to get that type of money. And talking about finance ecosystem, I said it before, there's no shortage of money. There's lots of money out there. There's a mismatch between the type of money out there and the type of money that entrepreneurs need, and the finance mechanisms. We've got a lack of bankable SMEs. We've got a lack of appropriate tools for those enterprise sizes. SMEs, a small business operating a lifestyle business, an artisanal business, does not need $1 million or 2 or 3 or 4 million rand. They probably only need 100 or 200,000 rand recurring over a period of time. They need working capital for those smaller projects, which we find, and we've got 4 or 5 PV entrepreneurs who do embedded generation, domestic scale, urban domestic installations, and they've got a pipeline of potential projects. Those projects are, typically about 4, 5, 6 kilowatt embedded generation installations. They're somewhere between 120 and 180,000 rand. They cannot raise that 120 to 180,000 rand through a bank, and their client isn't willing to pre-finance the project. Their client really is expecting for that financing to happen. If we focus on finding more accessible working capital solutions where the entrepreneur can help the client get into that project or finance that project, then I think we would unlock a lot of work opportunity in that space. And I think I've done it in my 10 minutes. So there's my contact details, and you're welcome to throw any questions at me if you wanted to.
Thank you, Hamid. We really appreciate that. And I will also keep my comments short, but I think it's been so practical how you unpacked how important it is to build a bankable business, and it's realistic for green SMEs to understand how you access funding. You first need to build the business. Very important. So thank you very much for that. And we have a couple of questions that we've asked Nigel to respond to one. But Hamid, if you don't mind, just stop sharing your slides, then I can quickly just ask. I'm not sure if Hilton is in the room from Growthville, but he wanted to just share with us the very new ACG Toolkit that Growthville has just launched, and the Youth Bridge Trust participants, the 300 youth, were the first globally in the world to access and test this pilot SDG Toolkit. So Hilton, over to you. I'm not sure, give me indication if you're in the room. Oh, there you are.
I
You're still Elise Hutton. Okay, no problem. No problem.
I'm also in the busiest street of the north of Johannesburg, William Nicol. So, you know, technology has allowed us to kind of join from anywhere.
Thank you so much, Hilton. We have to hear from you, and then we will close after you shortly, just to say thank you to everybody. And there's already a question. How can I access the SDG toolkit? So Hilton, over to you.
Yes, I think you know what we do know that this is the decade of action, right? If we don't do things together, in the words of Helmut, and I'm sure others have shared, then we're actually just going nowhere. And so, you know, the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the output of the Millennium Development Goals, where we kind of didn't meet those targets. I think it's imperative that, particularly in the green economy sector, that we must understand that we must collaborate, and we must kind of in our growth plans as business owners, particularly in the green economy, is constantly look at our value proposition and see the problems that we solve, and map that to the outcomes of the business. And so what we thought about is, where do we plug in the Sustainable Development Goals when business advisors and coaches and mentors and management consultants work with businesses? And we felt that the growth plan is the best place to kind of place this. And so Elise and the team, you've really kind of taken all this creative thought, and all our partners around the world has co-created the Sustainable Development series. And we haven't developed the features, we haven't released the features on the cloud platform yet, but if you are connected to one of our 350 partners in South Africa that use growth wheel, like Helmut's Incubator, Sirobi, and others, then you can get access to the growth wheel tools. And here's just one example where you kind of map your activities and your value proposition, to the Sustainable Development Goals. This is one particular feature, and we have a whole advanced series that Elise perhaps can tell us more about what the response was from those 364 aspiring graduates that wants to enter into the green entrepreneurship ecosystem. And so I think as a collective, and I think Helmut has put the nail on the head, is that we can't necessarily have a food incubator, and then kind of also have a green economy focus within that incubator. But there is an opportunity to link the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly the green economy outcomes, into the SMME's growth plans, and then able to help them to kind of also put up their hands and say that we are 300,000 formal businesses in South Africa, and collectively we contribute more to the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the beauty of that, Elise, is that many corporates, they struggle to do this themselves, right? Their business is about manufacturing, it's huge energy usage. They push out many negative things in our lives, in water and all kinds of things. Mining is a dirty business. And we as small businesses, if we capture the Sustainable Development Goals as part of what we do, we can contribute that back to the corporates. And so we then add value to why they should buy from us, why they should give us some money, to implement the work that we do, and how we contribute to their kind of, broader goals. And so that's the Sustainable Development Goals. I'll drop that there. There's another one I wanted to share, which is on the green economy, the business model. And I think, did I share that? I think Helmut has obviously has a lot more experience on this particular area, which is, the right type of business model particularly, the artisan sector. Today, a plumber, an electrician, can almost earn the same amount of money as a doctor, right? I recently had a problem, and I had an electrician come out, and the call alone was 650 Rand, and he told me what the problem was. He didn't fix the problem, right? So then I had to pay him for that. But I think therein lies the opportunity. We've just seen that Standard Bank has made an announcement that homeowners, and we have somewhere around 15 million homeowners in the country that suddenly have, those homes are their offices. About 10 million people work from their homes, and we know what happens. There's electricity problem. If you live in the north of Johannesburg, you have a water problem, even in your up suburbs, because the infrastructure is poor and old. So I think this particular ecosystem, the green economy ecosystem, has so much opportunity from a growth perspective, but we've got to approach this more sustainable. And this is, again, when you look at your business model, yes, you provide a service, yes, you put in equipment, but how do you help with the sustainability, of our infrastructure broadly at a home and, of course, a commercial sector? And so these two things I will drop into the chat. There'll be images, but the PDFs that you can use, you must go to one of our 350 partners throughout South Africa and go to our website and get that. But Elise, thank you for the opportunity to kind of join the conversation and say that we do have an untapped opportunity as small businesses and startups in the green economy sector.
Thanks, Hilton. I really appreciate that. We need tools. We need tools to develop our entrepreneurs, and it's so refreshing that there's a green business model tool and the SDG goal package. I think they are really going to add such value for us to also help non-green entrepreneurs who's interested to kind of pivot into the green industries. Also, some of them wants to just have a lower carbon footprint. So thank you for all of that. And everybody, I'm so happy that you're all in the room still. We still have about 80 people. And we're just putting up who was in the room. In the beginning, we had about 90 people when we were running the poll. So let's just quickly look. We've got 1% youth-owned SMEs. We had 4% of female-owned, government officials with 10%, Incubator accelerators with 12%, VDS providers, none. We had green entrepreneurs, funders, researchers, business coaches, and other. So I want to thank you for that. It's been a fantastic day, and I appreciate all of you who were so kind to let us run over time. I think today's session is really a testimonial that the green ecosystem is absolutely thriving. I had probably 5 other incubators who couldn't make it today who also wanted to speak, and I mean that would have been a half-day event if I had to also include them. So it's just a testimonial to see there's support, there's funding, there's grassroots level initiatives like Ndalu, there's Lauren with Future Females supporting women, Youth Bridge Trust is including youth into the green economy, Helmut working on the renewable energy side, and really saying all the work that they're doing at the Innovation Hub, which is really fantastic, and Audrey from the capital side also looking at tech. So thank you for everybody that has contributed to today's discussion. I really value your inputs, and I hope that you got a flavor that there is a lot of action happening and building back better, greener. I just want to ask Nigel, perhaps. Nigel, there was one tricky question, but the person already left the room. But if you want to maybe just answer the question, then you're welcome to do so, Nigel.
Thanks. I think Elise is referring to the question on what is a green ecosystem. And in a nutshell, I don't think there are any holy cows here in terms of exactly what a definition is. For me, it really is around it's defining, there are many ecosystems all overlapping and working in different parts of the economy. I think it's around defining who your target is in terms of the firms and the entrepreneurs that you're working with, and then looking at the surrounding support institutions, the interaction between the public and the private sectors. It includes multiple value chains. As many of you might know, I'm a great cluster advocate. I think cluster ring to some extent represents the pulling together of an ecosystem. But I don't think there are any holy cows in it. I think it's really about taking a holistic approach to that whole supporting set of institutions that surround a set of SMMEs or businesses. Thanks.
Thanks, Nigel. But that concludes our event today. Thank you, everybody. And again, apologies. And I want to also say a huge thanks to all the speakers who made their time available. I know it's not always easy to take 2 hours, more than 2.5 hours out of your day, but we look forward to send you the recording of today's event. Some of you, if you want to share that with your networks, you're very welcome. And I've also put in the link on the TIPS website. If you've missed our first Green Recovery event and the second one, you can always go back to our YouTube channel and you can listen in. There's a great one in the first event about all the green policy supporting South Africa. And the second event, we really digged a bit deeper into the European Green Deal, and we looked at the implications for small businesses, risks and opportunities, and the different materials and the different sectors that is affected by CBAM taxes. So if any of you are interested to capacitate yourself, to learn more about the green economy, the big plans for the economy, all the actions is maybe not there yet, but we have evidence today to see all the little seeds that's growing and taking off to decarbonize our economy and help us to get to net zero and also meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius reduction targets, because our planet might survive, but the people on the planet are very vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And that is what we're doing at the end of the day. I'm very happy also for me, what stood out today is in Dalu Rest, that you are focusing on climate adaptation, which is really important. You know, there's a lot of climate mitigation support and focus in South Africa, but we need small enterprises to really tackle the adaptation, to help make our cities and the way we live and operate more resilient to stand the test of climate change, the floods that we've seen in KZN, wildfires, and droughts. These are what our planet is unfortunately facing from an environmental perspective. And we are fragile as humans, but together we are stronger. And we want to leave no woman and no child and no man behind. And when we build back better, greener, let's work together. A big theme for today was collaboration. And I've mostly seen the spirit of collaboration of all the ecosystem players here today, really creating a space, feeding on each other's pipeline of entrepreneurs, seeing where the ecosystem have gaps to support entrepreneurs in different areas. So I encourage this green family to connect to each other, to stay close in the work that you're doing. And we really hope that we can provide another platform like this. I just saw in the chat, one of the individuals are running a waste incubator. So very important waste, another green incubator, which is really fantastic. So all of the best. I hope you guys still have a good afternoon and thank you for your patience. And bye for now for Elise from TIPS. I hope to see you soon at the last event. Our last Green Recovery event will take place on 20 July. And we will focus on inclusive access to finance for small businesses. So anybody that's interested, please save that date in your diaries. We're going to have Jack from Greenk going to take us through the green climate finance landscape that they've done. They've got a green directory of all the green finance that's available in the country. So, and we also will have a representative from the Green Outcomes Fund to talk about what they are doing. And then from TIPS, I will be sharing some results of our contextual financial analysis study, where we looked at how entrepreneurs can be better supported with accessing green finance that's more inclusive for women-owned and youth-owned enterprises. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic afternoon. Thanks for coming.